You know, lads, you begin the Hurling Championship review almost each year asking yourself the same question. How many are Kilkenny going for this year? As it happens, it's 3 in a row, Liam. Are they as good as ever?
Yeah, they're a very, very serious outfit. You know, their form to date has been really good. I guess the beauty in Kilkenny is they always seem to find 2 or 3 players every year that's coming onto the panel. I mean, last year obviously they sprung Walter Walsh off the bench in the replay of the All-Ireland final. He scores 1-3. You know, I guess the hope for everyone, I think, is that they are getting older. You know, they can't go on forever. And I think that if the league has shown us anything, maybe it is that, you know, there has been games where it's been a bit topsy-turvy. The competition, I think, is getting closer when it comes to Kilkenny. Michael, you've been able to step aside from it this year, having won, 52 All-Ireland medals or something like that?
Yeah,
What does it appear like to you? Are Kilkenny as hungry, as anxious to win as ever?
Yeah, look, I've been at a lot of the league camps. I've been kind of very impressed with Kilkenny and their league form to date. You know, certainly, you know, the form of the players has been very good. They've picked up a couple of players during the league. As Liam alluded to, they are getting on in age as well, you know, so they'll be keen to try rack up another 1 or 2 before they finish up. A lot of them are getting close to 30 and the wrong side of 30 now as well. So a lot of miles on the clock and a lot of hurling done, you know, so there'll be obviously question marks about their hunger, but Kilkenny hopefully will have a big say in the hurling year this year.
Ollie, you know, you've played for Galway, you've played against Kilkenny so many times. Last year you went close as a county. What do you make of Kilkenny?
There will be question marks, I suppose, over Henry Shefflin coming back, TJ Reid coming back in, but they seem to have other players to step in, you know, take up the mantle there and drive things on for them. But there was question marks last year after the Leinster final. You know, Galway, in fairness, gave them a lesson that day in the first half, but Kilkenny bounced back, and in the replay, you know, they showed who were the All-Ireland champions last year.
Does that tell us one thing about Kilkenny? You get one chance against them, Liam, and you really got to produce it in that first 70 minutes.
Yeah, thankfully we did. But, you know, I think...
boy, did you do it.
In fairness to Galway, they had them on the ropes. But, you know, the true champions that they are, they got back off the ropes, you know, because when they went 7 points down, you were looking like there was only going to be one winner. But, like, it really came down to one man in the second half. Like, Kilkenny looked to one man. It was King Henry. He was the one that turned that match in its head. His leadership, his body language, everything in that second half, I think, epitomised the man. Will they be the same if he can't bring that to the pitch?
Well, one of the high points of the summer will be the Leinster Hurling final. We haven't been hearing an awful lot about Offaly because they've been in Division 1B, which is realistically is Division 2.
They're starting to build up there, the young panel, you know, so there's a bit of belief starting to come again. Whether they'll be strong enough to take on Kilkenny just yet, it seems to believe, but they still have a lot of work to do, and I suppose Kilkenny, you know, should be probably hopefully getting over that one and setting up a semi-final, Leinster semi-final.
Liam, is that an impossible task for Offaly against Kilkenny?
You know, I do think, like, when they get into Tullamore, like, sometimes Offaly can just completely play above what you've seen previously when it comes to championship. I think a good start will be vital for them in that game. You could only, at this stage, forecast a Kilkenny win, but, you know, as I said, if there's one people capable of doing the impossible, it is Offaly.
The other match is Dublin versus Wexford there. Tough pressure on Anthony Daly at this time.
That's a banana skid potentially for Dublin. I mean, they can't have left their league form in the semi-final of Division 1A. When they got the chance, obviously, playing in the semi-final was anything but good. They have a lot of question marks going into their championship campaign, which to me is far from ideal. I
think Anthony Daly is not 100% sure of his starting 15, and that may come against them. I think they'll have enough to overcome Wexford, but you know, I think they'll be stopped by Kilkenny after that.
So we've heard from Ollie, we've heard from Liam. Would you expect it would be a Kilkenny v Galway final?
I suppose looking at the draw, you know, you'd have to fancy probably Galway definitely to come through on their side of things, you know. Offaly any day can raise to the challenge, and, you know, they've never feared Kilkenny, you know, but you'd be hoping Kilkenny would have enough kind of experience there to guide them over that one, and, you know, after that then set up a Dublin-Wexford semi-final, but, you know, hopefully Kilkenny will get that momentum and should set up for a Kilkenny-Galway, maybe Leinster final. Certainly that would be a great opportunity for Kilkenny to try and get back the Leinster title.
As regards a winner, Liam, pointless asking Ollie or Michael, with due respect.
Man in the middle.
So you are the man in the middle.
You know, it's intriguing, but look, you would expect Kilkenny and Galway, but if it is Kilkenny and Galway, I think the fact that Galway had beaten them the previous year will be enough motivation for Kilkenny to say, we need to get back this cup.
In Munster, it starts with Waterford against Clare.
I think Clare are going well under Davy Fitz this year. I think they're playing a nice brand of hurling. You know, they're using, they've got a lot of exciting, fast players up front. You know, they have a couple of players coming back from injury as well. Tony Kelly is a real find at midfield, centre forward. He's picking up a lot of scores for a young guy, and really a guy to look out for during the championship.
There's a huge amount of talent at their disposal in Clare right now. I mean, the All-Ireland final win against Kilkenny was, obviously put down as one of the most impressive under-21 displays in a number of years. And a lot of those players are coming through. Watford, to me, were the surprise package of the league. I thought obviously they were losing a number of players. Steve Malumphey wasn't going to be available. John Milan had retired. There was a lot of them maybe that we felt, God, will they be able to be competitive? And I think, they really showed in the league that, they're far from gone away.
I think Waterford have found a lot of young players, a lot of emerging young talent coming through in Waterford. Under Michael Ryan, they seem to have got it together. They lost Steve Malumphey, they lost John, but the future looks good down there. They've done a lot of great work underage in schools. A lot of those younger players are starting to come through now and starting to establish themselves on the team. They've been very impressive in the league to date, so they'll be carrying a bit of momentum going into the championship. So
if they have the hunger for the battle again this year, Waterford will hold their own against most of the teams in Munster, but I expect Clare to win that game.
Michael, Cork are managed once again by the charismatic Jimmy Barry Murphy. Is there a particular type of Jimmy Barry Murphy player that you've noticed that he likes to have in his team?
He's gone for a lot of young, skillful players. He's trying to build an emerging talent and panel that's going to come through over the next couple of years. I think after the first round, I think everyone was expecting Cork to have a big say in the league this year, and that's just the way the league was. It's just they'll be disappointed after getting relegated. They won't like to be facing into Division 1B next year. But I think they'll have a say, but the injuries alone are going to test Cork's panel, I think, and I'm not sure will they have the strength and depth,
Ollie, the other half of that Munster draw pits Limerick against Tipperary. Now, Tip are the favourites.
Limerick are kind of, a number of their forwards, they've 3 or 4 definitely will be starting forwards. They're only in around 22 years of age, They actually are young, and even though they have been there for a couple of seasons, I just think they don't have the experience yet. I know John Allen was critical of the league structure, and I think they probably didn't get enough out of the league playing in Division 1B. They probably had a couple of games in that division that they didn't learn enough from. I think they'll be up against Tipperary, and I'd see Tipperary coming through on that side.
Nobody knows Tipperary better than you do. So, are they the team to win Munster?
I don't think they were ever gone away, to be fair to this group of players. They've won Munster finals and contested All-Ireland finals and semi-finals in the last 2 years, and they know how to get to the top of the hill.
Okay, so who do you think, Ollie, will be in the Munster hurling final this year, and who's going to win?
I think Clare will come through on one side, and I think Tipperary will come through on the other. And I think Tipperary will win Munster this year.
Retain the title.
I'd agree with Ollie's analysis. I think the 2 teams that will contest the Munster final are Tipperary and Clare. I think if that's the case, we'll see a really, really good Munster final. But I think Tipperary, have the potential to deliver a 3-in-1 Munster.
And finally, Michael, how about you? Which 2 teams in Munster?
I think I'll make it easy and I'll disagree with the lads, but look, if you're looking on form, you'd probably have to go with Tip and Clare again. Tip, I think, are building a squad there, and there's going to be a serious competition for places. A lot of players might be looking over their shoulder, but they have a core group of players there, and I think they probably will have too much firepower, and I probably fancy them to win the Munster title again.
Who do you think will play in the All-Ireland final this year? Which 2 teams, and who's going to win?
At this point in time, I think myself that Kilkenny and Tipperary look like that they're in the right place to reach the final this year.
And the winner?
I think I have a funny feeling for Tipperary. I think Eamon O'Shea has really settled things down there this year. They seem to be playing very, very well together as a team and working hard for each other. And I have a sneaky suspicion that Tipperary have designs on winning the All-Ireland this year.
Galway, you're there or thereabouts each year.
From Galway's point of view, I suppose, they're building a new team. They have a lot of young players, and I'm not sure if they have the experience yet. But saying that, they did really well last year in the first game in the All-Ireland last year. And I mean, if they just maybe a small bit more composure, I think, they gave away some soft frees, I felt. And if they had a bit more composure last year, the first day out, they could have won the All-Ireland that day.
Liam, what about your 2 for the All-Ireland final? Who do you think it'll be?
I can see, whoever gets to the All-Ireland final, I think is going to have to dispossess Kilkenny and Tipperary, and I don't think that's going to be an easy task for any of the other teams, but it's not one that they'll worry about or wouldn't relish. But I do think they're the 2 teams that are best positioned.
And at this remove, who's going to win the All-Ireland?
I think Galway, the beauty that Galway have is that they are coming into, what looks like an All-Ireland quarter-final or semi-final. So, you know, there is that run. They find themselves very, very close to the top of the hill, you know, by getting in that route, and you know they would only have to peak for 2 or 3 games. But you know, I do think Tip are well positioned. I think, you know, if I look at the panel that they've built, I think there's far less question marks. I think the spine of their team is very clear. I think Galway are still unclear around the spine of their team. That's something they'll have to sort out and quick. And I do think, obviously, you know, whoever wins the All-Ireland are going to have to topple, you know, the best team, which has been for the last number of years, Kilkenny. But I don't think it's outside their reach. I think it's something that they can achieve, and I think we can all look forward to a really good summer. And I would see Tipperary potentially sitting at the top of the pile.
Michael?
Yeah, look, I suppose I might have to differ with the lads here, and I might have to go with my own county, Kilkenny. You know, I just think, you know, I think they're in a good place. They're after putting together a very good league campaign. They have a lot to play for this year. Obviously, the 3 in a row they're going for as well. An opportunity for Henry to pick up his 10th All-Ireland medal as well. You know, it's going to be a huge task again, whoever comes through. Tip are in a great place at the moment. You know, they have a great panel, and they seem to be back where they were in 2010. Everyone thought they were going to come and take over there for a couple of years. They're anxious to get back to that spot, you know. So I think Galway will be eager to try to get back after last year's All-Ireland final defeat. So, you know, it's an intriguing summer ahead, you know, but I think hopefully Kilkenny might get there in the end.
Intriguing summer indeed. So there you have it. 1 for Kilkenny, 2 for Tipperary. Thank you all indeed for joining us. It's been fascinating listening to your views. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, food for thought there. And before we get Michael and Tomas's thoughts, the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship began earlier today when Antrim travelled south to take on Westmeath in Mullingar. And reporting for us is Dave Kelly.
Championship 2013 got up and running today with the visit of Antrim to Cusack Park to take on Westmeath. The home team started well. A great goal from corner forward Niall O'Brien with the game 15 minutes old. Antrim responded within a minute with a well-taken goal of their own. Midfielder Matthew Donnelly set up centre forward and captain Neil McManus, and his finish was top class. Into the second half, and Westmeath had a penalty inside 2 minutes when danger man Niall O'Brien was taken down by Mark McFadden. Referee given no option, and up stepped wing forward Joe Clark, but his shot was well saved and deflected over for a point. Westmeath led by 4. Soon after, Antrim had a penalty when full forward Conor Carson was hauled down. Neil McManus stepped up, and his goal brought Antrim back into the game, 2-7 to 1-11 at this point. 15 minutes remaining, and they had another goal. This time a long delivery into the full forward line was won by Conor Carson, and he went clean through before finishing to the net. Antrim were comprehensive winners in the end. Full-time scoreline: Antrim 3-18, Westmeath 2-13.
Westmeath now play Laois in the next round of the championship in a fortnight's time. Let me come to the 2 lads here in the studio. Tomas, let me start with you, because apart from the teams that have been considered this year, there's another team involved, which is the team of referees this summer, because you have a view that hurling is becoming more physical, while you feel that the GAA are trying to take some of that physicality out of the game by tightening the rules, if you like.
Yeah, I think since the introduction of the helmet, certainly, and I mean the buzzwords maybe over the last 2 or 3 years have been strength and conditioning for a lot of the GA players, and maybe it's a follow suit from football that guys have bulked up a bit more, which means it leads to more physical contests, right? So I'd be just a small bit worried and concerned, right?
I mean, the helmets into the equation. What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean the fellas can go into stuff that they wouldn't do otherwise?
I mean, you take the tackle, we say Fergal Moore in the Galway match and the Kilkenny match, right? I mean, without a helmet, I don't think he would have taken on that tackle. I mean, he went straight head in that situation. And a concern is that I've seen a lot more injuries with guys wearing helmets. I mean, Walter Walsh came off that day, right? And he had a head cut, even though he was wearing a helmet as well. And I think something that the GA have to implement as well from a helmet point of view is that they have safety standards. There are guys going out there playing without the right gear, which is important. But the refereeing side of it, I mean, after last year's All-Ireland series, right, I was enthralled by the competitiveness of the game, the toughness of the game. And I'm not saying you have to be the hard man on the field of play, but there was situations where afterwards that Pat McEnany came out and he says, look, I looked at this championship, there should have been at least 8 red cards given in the hurling championship. Now, to me, that is absolute nonsense, right? And I hope that is not going to follow through into the championship. I saw today 8 yellow cards given out today, 2 red cards. Yeah, you can say the 2 red cards were justified, but if you look at consistency, maybe there should be a yellow card given to the goalkeeper for his involvement today. But the yellow card offences that were given out today were no much more than an actual ticking offence, if there were actually even a ticking offence, right? So I hope that is not the standard that we're going to set for championship coming forward in 2013.
I suppose we have to wait and see how all of that plays out during the summertime, Michael Dignan. But listen to the lads there, and I think the view of most people talking about this year's championship is probably Kilkenny, maybe Tipperary, possibly Galway. Is that it, Michael? Does anybody else come to the party?
Well, I think they do, obviously, on a one-off. I think the difficulty is, strength and depth, the resources that, Kilkenny are very, very strong. They have a great setup, a great system, players coming through the whole time. Tipperary, whatever happened last year, things didn't go well, but have a lot of good players, and outfield are going to be around for a long time. There's great under-21 teams, and Galway have a big pick. But if you look at it, like, even in football, no county with a population of less than 200,000 has won an All-Ireland since Offaly in '82. It's money, it's resources, it's training, it's all this. The bigger counties are getting stronger, and the smaller counties are being detached from that. And league structure doesn't help. The likes of Offaly played their last match at the end of March. They're not playing until the 9th of June. They have to face the All-Ireland champions. What sort of preparation is that from a playing point of view? And if you're playing inter-county hurling, April, May, June, July, August, September, the best months of the year, and you could be Shane Dooley, one of the top players in the country, maybe gets 2 matches in the year. So look, I just think the gap is getting wider, not just from a playing point of view, but also, we just have to be careful in the GA. I think if one county can spend $1 million preparing a team and another county can only spend 100 or 200,000, there's going to be a gap.
And before we go, briefly, you've heard the lads give their predictions. Tomas, for you, the All-Ireland?
Yeah, I suppose, the three that everybody mentioned, I don't think there's going to be any difference from there. I said from the outset, I like the look of Tipperary. Eamon O'Shea's come back in there. He's trying to change a bit of a game plan there. They have a lot of strength and depth. They've introduced a few guys into the fray. Yeah, Kilkenny are everyone to beat, but I think if Tipperary can get a bit more aggression into their play, they're looking for the perfect ball on most occasions, but as the summer goes on, bit of movement in their team, bit of creativity, sure, I think they will actually win the All-Ireland this year.
Michael?
I fancy Tip last year, and they went out with a whimper.
Yeah.
I think they'll be very close. I think Eamon O'Shea brings something different. He was there with Liam Sheedy. The only thing, I think Michael Kavanagh mentioned it there, Kilkenny have so much incentive this year with Henry Shefflin going for 10th All-Ireland. Brian Cody has been sick, he'll be back. And just their strength and depth, it's startling. Walter Walsh came in last year out of nowhere. Lester Ryan has come in this year.